Hey, hey, hey. How you guys doing? Everyone doing all right? Sorry for being late. I literally forgot it was Wednesday, so I don't know what that says about me, but I think it does say something. I just don't know what yet. But yeah, it's just how it is. Sorry about that one. Audio good, screen black. Okay, give me a sec, I'll fix it. Why is it? I had like a massive oh, there it is. I have a massive OBS update. What is this? Why is it gone again? um, this is so fucking odd. But yeah, I had a massive OBS update, and that played around with stuff. So yeah. Oh no, he's gone blind. Yeah, lost my eyes. Are you going to buy dips? Yes. I'm actually like considering just rebuying. But I'll go over the reason why I sold 25K. I mean, looks good in hindsight, but we can talk about it. I mean, I tweeted it, so. And yeah, what I'm planning to do, all that kind of stuff. I'm not particularly bearish. I didn't sell everything. I sold like 50%, roughly, of what I have. So there's that. But there's a few reasons for it, and there's a few reasons why I didn't like doing it, which we can also talk about. So, and yeah, I mean, in general, I just realized like 5 minutes ago that I was gonna stream because, like I said, I forgot it was Wednesday. So I have a tea and the cake in front of me. Don't ask me why I'm eating cake in the middle of the night, but here it is. So I will doing that during the live stream. Quality times with DonAlt as usual, huh? Production quality 10 out of 10. But yeah. So why did I risk off, right? And I mean, I'm mainly talking Bitcoin here. The altcoins didn't do too much. I sold bunch, but not nothing crazy. So Bitcoin, right? Last month closed out resistance. I didn't really mind it too much. It's a resistance, right? But it's not the strongest one that we have, and we have a strong reclaim here. Like we had a false breakdown, reclaimed, hit resistance, and I was like, I think February does have a little bit more fuel left, right? So ignored this, still kept on holding my positions. But then we have had, let me quickly remove this. But then we got this weekly close at resistance on top of this, which is like one of my favorite setups. I mean, I have a few. I have the range loss basically, and then reclaim that usually results in upside. Same to the downside, obviously. But also, like, this is one where you have multiple time frames at resistance. Here, for example, like I said, the monthly close at resistance, and then you get the weekly closing at resistance. So if this has some follow through on the weekly side of things, and we get a red candle, there's a good chance that this monthly is gonna close red as well, which means that the resistance held, and then technically speaking, there's a window of opportunity to go to 19K, right? Because that's the best monthly support we have. Would also be quite nice because it's like a inverse head and shoulders setup. I would actually like the look of that. So that's the crypto kind of part of it, right? We had a bunch of people going quite crazy on the long side. We also have a bunch of people always going crazy on the short side. It's a little bit embarrassing what I've been seeing, like people flexing I've seen a bunch of people flexing Litecoin shorts where they entered at 98 or 96 and then it went to 94, like $2, and they're like, well, I'm the best. It's a little bit odd, but there we go. If you traded that with any kind of size, like you slip those $2 yourself, right? It's a little bit of an odd one, but I guess people just see trading different than I do. But that's the crypto side of things, right? Don't really care about everything else. It's just Bitcoin. Bitcoin's driving the market, right? But another thing is that I saw the S&P being quite weak into resistance here. And I was expecting the S&P to pull back massively. And it did, right? It's been having a really shitty week. Which I expected to kind of spill over into our markets. And on top of that, we've had the meme stock rally. Tesla went from 100 to 200 into resistance, right? So I think that could mean that we're getting a little bit of a risk off. I mean, the last time I talked about it was, I think on the newsletter, was trading at like 210, 11, 12, somewhere around there. It's up a shitload, right? And it bounced right into resistance. This looks like some sort of complacency bounce. And if that kind of goes lower, that's going to kind of spill over into the traditional markets, which could spill over into crypto, right? So you have a bunch of things. You have the monthly resistance, you have weekly resistance. Daily also started to show exhaustion to me anyway. Like I saw this. Like this was a nice move up, and then everyone was expecting upside, like quite substantially so, but we instead got exhaustion up here. So I was like looking at it, all time frames on Bitcoin didn't look that good for the first time since the bottom, and Tesla had massive rally, GME rally too. I don't know if you guys have been kind of keeping up with that, but I think it's a good retail indicator. We had like a big GME rally from like 15 all the way to 25. That's like 60%, quite a massive rally. Still obviously down a lot, but it was a nice bounce into resistance too. So we've had a few indicators showing that maybe we're getting we're gonna get some headwind, and yeah, we had a little bit of that. We had a little bit of a pullback on Bitcoin. So far, it's been orderly. It's down 5%, which isn't that great. Like that's not the biggest pullback, but it is something, right? And it's an orderly one. It's not a flash crash-ish. I mean, it's not really a flash crash, but you get what I'm saying. Like this is a quick move. Those ones are usually bought up relatively quickly. This is one that grinds lower, which could end up having a capitulation candle at the end of it. Not entirely sure. I'm liking the relative, like I thought it would be weaker. It's stronger than I expected it to be. Still down 5% from where I sold, which is obviously nice. But yeah, there's some more strength in it than I thought there would. But there you go. That's basically the title. Now you can close the stream. Enjoy your evening. I'll hang around, but that was kind of the reason. We can talk about where I want to get back in. Like I said, in an ideal world, we'd retest monthly support. I think that would get people very bearish again, and I think that would get like the bear tards like Capo and like a bunch of other people on their high horse again before we had a bigger move to the upside. Like that would be a nice entry. I wouldn't bet on it. Like I wouldn't bet that is going to happen. That's why I only sold half, because I don't want to sell everything expecting higher, but also expecting a pullback and then not getting the pullback and then being out of the market, right? So I didn't want to close everything. Just wanted to kind of de-risk some, especially given that I just bought too much at the lows. Thanks, Don. Bye. Perfect. Classic target, 60K, sell 25K, moved on, Chad. I mean, the thing is, if I could still trade with the futures and with leverage and all that kind of jazz, right? I'd basically be in a short from 25K, targeting 19K while keeping my spot position and then closing that short, basically a short hedge of my position whenever I think the bear's running out of steam, right? So it's not necessarily, hey, I'm targeting 60K, I'm closing 25. It's just me trying to take advantage of a downswing. And this recent 5% move seemed very telegraphed to me. Like, I mean, just looking at how this shaped up here at 25K, it seemed pretty telegraphed. So, like, I like to take advantage of those kind of situations when I can. And, I mean, back in the day, I was doing it with leverage because that's the easiest way, just hedge it. Nowadays, I have to be a little bit more creative or less creative in a way. But yeah. You sold everything? I mean, I don't know how often I've said that I only sold half, but here you go. I'm saying it again. I sold like roughly half. Thoughts on filling the CME gap at 20K? I don't really care about the gap, but 20K is roughly, I think, a good target. Now, obviously, this could just reverse and go on the biggest bull run. I'm actually down to rebuy 25K. So there you go. If it comes back to 25K, I think we're going to just giga moon, basically. If we do the same thing that we did here, as in like round out, come up, I think if we do this, we're going to go to 28 at least. So I'm down to rebuy where I sold, basically. Why would you hedge instead of sell? Is it a position size thing? No, it's just in general, like, why would you hedge instead of selling? It's a good question, right? Basically, when I have a position that I want to hold, right? Like a spot position that is there because I think the market is going to go up in general, right? That's my general bias. I think up, right? I think this is going to go up. Now, I could either, like, go through the hassle of selling spot, doing like a bunch of shit, looking that everything works out fine, liquidity wise and in general. And you do pay more if you, like, in fees, if you trade spot. It's just how it is. There's a few ways on Binance where you didn't have to pay as much. But I don't like to just trade on one exchange. So I trade on multiples, and it's more expensive to trade in and out of spot. So if I could, I had like a market view of, okay, it's going to go up, but we're going to have a temporary pullback, I would just keep the core position. At resistance, I would take on a short hedge, which is easier to do because it's liquidity wise, it's so much easier to just use leverage or like not leverage, but use like a derivatives platform, because I mean, you can just slam however much you want without having to deal with any kind of trouble. Obviously, with a little bit of brain, but it's fine. And then that hedge you can close however you want. You don't have to think about it much. So it's just much less complicated in a way, because getting in and out is just a hassle. But with a short hedge, you don't have to. And oftentimes, with a short hedge, you also get paid for the position, because usually, at least back in the day, and I mean nowadays, I just don't trade derivatives anymore, so I'm not really following it too closely. But back in the day, you usually got paid for it. So, and by beer funding, gotcha. Yeah, exactly. Funding is usually paying bears. Why can't you use leverage? Because it's a little bit of a hassle in Germany. So I just don't need it anyway. I think it's overrated as like people use it wrong. It's underrated if you use it right, but overrated for the wrong reasons. Basically, people, they want to trade with, they're like, oh, I have 10,000, I want to trade with 100,000, so 10x leverage it is. Stupid way to think about it, right? But if you're like, okay, I don't want to have this much money on this exchange all the time, but I still want to be able to actively trade, and then taking like a 2x, 3x, 4x leverage position and just having less money in the exchange is a great way to kind of go about it, right? Because then you essentially have the same positioning, but you just don't have to have as much money on the exchange. You can offset the exchange risk, which you always have when you're trading in crypto. One thing that you always have is the risk of the exchange just stealing your funds. And if you're not trading on a centralized exchange, you also have that risk by you just getting fished, or like in general just getting fucked over, because it's just way too easy to steal from people in crypto. So you want to minimize that as much as you can, and using leverage is a great way to do it, but people don't use it for that. People use it to go 100 or 1000x long or short, which is some of the worst you can do. Don, can you talk about difference between DCA and accumulating the lows with multiple buys and entering with a single buy, and how your system works around this idea? I mean, I just don't DCA. I think DCA is stupid. I said the same thing down here. I mean, if you're an investor, DCA away. If you're a bad trader, DCA away, because the one thing that I will say that DCA is great at is basically preventing you from doing stupid shit. Because let's say you start DCAing at 30K and it goes to 20 and you can keep buying. You're going to be excited to buy 20K to lower your average, right? Whereas if you just bought 30K, there's a good chance that you'd freak out at 20K because you cannot buy more and you're just like, fuck. But in general, in markets, DCA usually nets you worse average. Because, I mean, most of the time, crypto, at least Bitcoin, and I mean ETH at this point too, and the S&P and other indexes, most of the time they go up, right? So if you wait and just stagger your buys, you just get a worse average. So I don't like it, but it's a good way to prevent you from doing something stupid. What I do instead is basically I have a position, or like I have an idea where I would take on a position. I buy hard and just roll with the punches. I mean, in general, like I don't really, on the investment side of things, I don't do too much. But I like to kind of look for areas where I think the industry is at risk. We've seen that a couple times. Seen that down here. We've seen that down here, and we've seen it down here, right? Where basically if this goes any further, you start being in big trouble. We've seen it also back in 2014, 15, like all the way to the left side here. Whenever that happens, whenever crypto is in danger, it's usually a good time to buy, because I mean, that's where the opportunity is the greatest. Obviously, you have a risk of crypto dying, but that you always have, right? I've had a bunch of people be like, yeah, but I mean, it's so risky to buy. Like, why are you buying? I think buying crypto up here is 10 times more risky than buying it down here, right? Buying crypto after a 10x is just so much more risky. But people don't like to think that way. They're like, okay, this is up 10x, probably going to go up 10x more. Not necessarily. When it's down 80, 70, 80, 90%, the risk is usually lower. I mean, it sounds plausible. And then when you think about it, it sounds a little bit less plausible, because you're like, I mean, this could have just gone to zero. But then, I mean, this the thing with everything, right? You have to have a little bit of conviction in the market that you're trading. Because if you're trading a market that you have zero conviction in, you're just gonna do dumb shit. And I've seen a bunch, like the perma bears, the people that kind of like are around being like, oh, I'm just always bearish, whatever. Those are the people that usually don't make that much money. You have to be in markets that you actually have a little bit conviction about, like that they're not gonna go to zero. Otherwise, like if you think a market could go to zero, you couldn't even short, because you're not going to get paid out on something that goes to zero. Because no one is there to pay you off. No one has any money to pay you. So you have to have a little bit conviction. Absolutely false, says Matthew Charlton about DCA. I mean, there's been studies done, my friend, about DCAing. You can buy at any time if you think it's a good time. Like in general, on average, you're gonna have a better buy-in price. Now, obviously, if you just buy in after something went up 40x, it's a little bit of a different story. But yeah. I mean, if I DCA'd, right? If I DCA'd and kept everything, and I mean, I've been in crypto. The first time I bought Bitcoin was when it was like a 200, 300, 400. I would have zero money if I just kept it. And it's now like, I mean, I started with like $500 or $1,000. And if I just DCA'd, would have been completely useless. I bought my shit, it went up. I traded altcoins, didn't DCA those either, made a bunch more, and then I got out. I didn't DCA out either. I just sold whenever it got like completely crazy. And you're never gonna hit the top, or like, I mean, sometimes you will, but like, doesn't really make much sense to think about it that way. You're not gonna hit the top or the bottom, but you just need to get close enough. Like if you bought 6K and it went to 3K, like let's say you DCA'd from 20K all the way to 3K, your average is going to be like in the 10. If you bought 6K, you're going to be much, much better off, even though it went down 50% afterwards. I'm just not a fan of DCAing. I mean, I think like I said, for people that don't know what they're doing, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, we can throw on and talk about like this whole DCAing thing. We can throw on. No, I actually don't want to do it on this one. Let me see if I can find one that I have nothing on. Oh, yeah, that was a funny meme. So let's throw on a moving average, right? And be like, okay, hey, dude, I've been DCAing into this thing. It's a weekly. It's a weekly Bitcoin chart, 200 moving average, right? If you DCA'd into this thing in the last 200 days, right, you'd be underwater by a bit. If you just bought at any time after this massive nuke, you'd be quite a bit above. And if you check this, right, if you just DCA over time, more often than not, your entry actually gets retested as support or resistance. I mean, this is usually the times. I mean, we nuked here. Like if you DCA over a long enough period of time, I mean, this has been going up only, so you make a little bit of money, but your average is gonna be shit. Sailor has basically DCA'd himself into a losing position after buying 10K. Like Sailor bought a bunch here, and then he kept buying all the way up, and his average is now up here somewhere. It's just, I mean, if Sailor cannot do it, I don't think anyone else probably needs to do it either. That's a 200 week. I know it's a 200 week. I mean, obviously it's a 200 week. This is a weekly chart. I mean, it's just, there's literally studies about DCAing and how it nets you a worse average. I think, like I said, the only redeeming factor is just having a good mental, basically. Why do people even talk about DCA? It's so boring. I mean, it's for investors. I don't even know why this guy is like in the comments being like, I mean, if you want to invest and want to put like all in your money every month when your paycheck comes in, be my guest, right? But that's not what this channel is about, and it's not really what I'm talking about anyway. And I mean, if you want to go all in every month, I mean, you're technically DCAing. Sure, fair enough. I mean, that's fine by me. But I mean, why would you even talk about that? Like, no one gives a shit. Anyway, but yeah, that's the whole thing. I got completely derailed by the DCA talk, which I find stupid every time. And people have very strong opinions about this, which is funny to me because, I mean, just buy the bottom, sell the top. It's much easier. Let's talk about altcoins. So ETH's been struggling. It's kind of approaching the support that I wanted to see, but it's doing so in such a slow fashion that I actually think it's possible to nuke to the next lower one, which would be a great entry. I think 0.056, if you get that, that's the dream entry come true. Not entirely sure we're going to get it, but I'll hold off for now with ETH. Still have a little bit, but before I buy, like rotate bigly into ETH, I want to see either supports get tested, which is this one down here, not necessarily this one up here, or just a little bit of strength. Like if we start rallying off into the resistance again, I'm down to just rotate into ETH, betting on this resistance breaking, because I mean we've seen a lot of tests. DCA under 200 week, go nuts. DCA before the plan is dump. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole DCA thing is just, I mean, if you're talking with someone that actually just has no idea what the fuck they're doing, tell them to DCA, because they're not going to do anything wrong. If you talk with anyone that actually knows what they're doing, DCA is shit advice. So if you think you're like someone that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, you should be DCAing. If you think that maybe you have a little bit of more of an edge in the market that is very, very wild swings, then just don't, because there's better ways. Anyway, Matthew's just very mad with me, saying the strategy he's using is stupid. It's quite funny to me. I mean, it's always funny because, I mean, people are trading like illiquid shitcoin altcoins with 10 million market cap, and they're like, I'm up multiples, you're not. Yeah. Don, YouTubers that still call Bitcoin a store of value incredible. I mean, why not? They can do whatever they want. At the end of the day, you need people with like a little bit of conviction. In the whole meme, they need to drive the meme to get people interested. You're holding those Trump NFTs until he gets voted for president again next year. I mean, maybe. I don't plan on selling them. It's just, I mean, you can. It's a tiny market, and it's very liquid. So like, I just took like a small position, and I'm too lazy to do much with it. So if it goes up, I'll probably sell. If it doesn't go up, I'm just not going to do anything. If Bitcoin retraces to 20K, are you going to buy Bitcoin or altcoins? Probably altcoins, but we'll see. Do you think you can backtest for the low time frame triggers you notice for sell-off, or is it usually all relative to what's going on currently? It's very relative to what's going on. I mean, in general, people always try to like, and I mean, I get it, right? You try to like put a system to something, and you're like, oh, the 5 minute or the 10 minute or the 1 hour or the 4 hour looked like this. The derivatives data looked like that. But I think it's almost always context based, right? Whenever you kind of see exhaustion coming in, it depends on a lot of factors. So I wouldn't necessarily be like, okay, you can backtest this. It's just like a little bit of experience in the market and seeing signs. And some of them are backtestable, but that kind of edge usually goes away fast. So you kind of have to be able to use the evidence that you have all around rather than just one specific thing, in my opinion anyway. But I'm not the expert on low time frames. I just saw basically, and I mean, this is something that you see oftentimes. So you have a candle close at resistance, people risk off, and then you actually trade higher, right? So for example, on this, a lot of people saw this monthly resistance as a resistance, and they risked off at like 23. And then all of February, we traded above this resistance, right? Like all of February, we traded above here. And then they kind of forget about this resistance and they're like, oh, it's not valid anymore. But it still has 6 days to close. And there's a chance that we just get rejected. And that chance, basically, I didn't like 24K. Like, it's quite funny, right? Because I didn't like this monthly resistance, and I didn't like the weekly resistance. But exactly how it's shaping up right now is something that I could see us get a pullback from. As in, basically, we had a monthly close at resistance. We traded above it for quite some time. And then we rallied back after a nuke. We rallied back into weekly resistance, closed at that, and are having like some trouble with it now. In combination, I like it as like a way to pull back. Just by looking at the chart, I wouldn't like either one of them. So it's a little bit of a context thing, and it depends is basically the answer. And I mean, every time someone gives me the answer, it depends, I fucking lose my shit because I cannot do anything with it. But I mean, it's how stuff works in life, right? It always depends. And if trading, I mean, some people tell you trading is as simple as just like looking at an indicator, and if it does this, you do that. Not really. There's a little bit more to it. And there's a lot of kind of understanding what's going on with context. But I wasn't here earlier. The duck thinks we're going to zero. Just a dip, I think. But it could be a bigger one. I basically think we have room to go to 19K over the next few weeks. Doesn't have to happen. I still have a bunch because I'm more afraid of missing the upside than I am of taking some downside. But yeah, bought dip on Bitcoin today. I haven't. No, I haven't. Litecoin's been really strong today. But this is like, I mean, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's strong, right? It's back at support basically. But the reason why it's strong is because it's been underperforming on the way down, right? So like we had this big new candle that wasn't necessarily there on a lot of other altcoins. Now it's outperforming today, whereas other stuff isn't doing too well. Same is true on the USD pair, obviously. But I think in general, this could also pull back a little. One thing, and there's a few reasons why I think we might actually not pull back too much. And one is that I just see sentiment still very, very bearish. People are still shorting. People are not supposed to short after a rally like this. Like stuff tops when people stop shorting, basically. You still see a lot of people shorting. See like people flexing. They like I said, they short Litecoin at 96 and it goes to 94 and they're like, oh, I'm the greatest. As long as you see that, it usually isn't the top. When you see people flexing their shorts and it's down like 10, 15, 20%, it's a bit of a different story. But like when the people flex their 1 or 2% moves, not necessarily what you want to be seeing as a bear. So sentiment's still very bearish, and stuff doesn't look too bad, honestly. Like look at Litecoin, for example, right now. This is why I kept quite a bit of it. Like, do you really want to be bearish here, or do you want to be hoping or expecting that we're going to see something similar that we've seen in 2020? And I think like chart wise doesn't get much better on the USD pair. I mean, you have like a range here, you have a breakout, like you have a range, you have a breakout, you retest the range, you go up, right? So you have a range, you retest the range, you go up. You head into the first kind of like trouble area and you consolidate there for, I mean, in this case, 3 weeks. In this case, it's been 4. It's quite similar, right? It doesn't have to play out the same way. Fractals are a meme anyway, but it's in this relatively similar circumstances. This is done quite well before. But obviously this is 2020 and this is 2023, a little bit of a different time nowadays, but chart wise doesn't look too bad to me anyway. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But like I said, I just, in general, like when I see a monthly and a weekly like this, I want to risk off a little bit. Then again, if we manage to hold this green for the next 6, 7, 8 days, just kind of chill around and or like both work and or, because I only want to be out of the market once we have, like, while we have a bearish monthly and a bearish weekly. So if the weekly closes above 24.3, I like it again. And if the monthly closes above 23.5 ish, I like it as well. Like those would both be signs for me to get back in. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt. I'm gonna flip around a little bit. I'm getting a little bit skittish, like I said, because there's good reasons to be a little bit bearish now. But if those get invalidated, it's time to go full bull tart again. Thanks, Doug. Never been able to watch these videos live. Been following you for a long time. Appreciate it, man. Happy that you caught it live for once. Up only until Capo capitulates. Yeah, I think that's actually a fair way to go about this market, which is the saddest thing ever, but it's just how it goes. Are you planning to buy Lido? If it mega nukes, yes. Otherwise, no. Don, how high do you think Litecoin will go? Do you have any targets? So with Litecoin, right? My target from the beginning has been basically 230 or 330 or like 320-ish, like those two resistances up here. But those are very, very high and they usually sell before targets are hit. So take it with a grain of salt. We are at resistance right now. 100 is strong. Psychological resistance and also just technical. Like it's pretty good. We had a retest here. We took it as a shelf here. Once we broke it, massive nuke. Now we're sitting here, right? Like that's a massive resistance. But honestly, if we reclaim it, right? And I mean, we can just put this on another chart to kind of show why are good times. That would be actually quite funny if this played out. But let's be real for a second. Like, I'll actually remove all of this. So basically, we have this $100 shelf. Yeah, I wish I could put this. Like, this is the range, right? So I mean, you could also argue it's up here. Doesn't really matter. Anywhere there, right? So all the way here to the left. So we had this kind of 2018 kind of top. This looks, this is that area, right? We kind of chilled in it again, 2021. This is the range, right? As shitty as this one is, because it's a little bit of a choppy one. But this is the range. Like, there was a range here. It was kind of a range here, but a downwards one. As in the floor was the same, but obviously we never tested the resistance up high. And I mean, if you want to have more touches, this works, right? It disregards it a little bit, but like this was during 2018 and 2020 the range, and every time, like once you got into those kind of price levels, you exploded fast and then played out slowly. And we did this in 2020, we did it in 2018. So if you get back into that range, it starts looking very reclaimy, right? And I think the reason why I have 100 is just because it's more recent, and then you start reclaiming the big drops, right? So basically this was just consolidation. This was the bear market, right? From 100 all the way down to 40. Sounds absurd because, I mean, it went from 400 to 100, but that's just kind of altcoin shenanigans. But yeah, if we reclaim that resistance, go above like whatever it is, 100 to 110, I think all of this and all of this is relatively shitty resistance, right? So I think at that point you could go to the highs, but who knows? I don't want to like bull talk anyone into a stupid position. I mean, my Litecoin's up quite a bit. I mean, I've been trading it around quite successfully actually. It's up like 55% from when I got in, but I'm targeting quite a bit more. So do with that whatever you will. It's at resistance right now. So if you sold and rebuy 25K, wouldn't you then owe 40% taxes? On the stuff that I sold, yes. But in general, I've been talking with my accountants, and if I have too much, like if basically if you could say my trading is commercial, the rule doesn't apply, and I will still have to pay tax. So I don't want to just blindly hold stuff, praying that my accountants can push it through, and then actually still having to pay tax when I could just take a few trades here and there. But I still have 50% that I'm gonna try to push through tax-free. Yes, but I will have to pay tax on the stuff that I sold. It's just how it goes. I've been paying taxes every single year of my crypto career, so yeah, I'm a tax cuck that actually pays their taxes. Don't tell anyone, it's embarrassing. Do you think 16K won't be retested at all? I think 16K was the bottom, to be fair, to be honest. I don't think we're gonna go to 16K again. I think you're lucky if we go to 19, but I could be completely wrong on this front, but to me, 16K, this down here is basically exactly like this or this. Here we had a bunch of FUD going on between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Here we had COVID crash, and here we had FTX getting liquidated. Those are all big enough events to mark historical bottoms, and I could zoom out and do like the historical ones back in 2014 and before. They all kind of ended up with something like this. I'd be shocked to go back to 16K. Would you have risked off if you didn't oversize the bottom buys? A good question. Probably not. I just have too much. I risked off 50%. I still feel like I have an unreasonable amount. How long did you take to get profitable in trading? So I mean, I got pretty lucky. I don't know. I always had like a good feel for markets, but basically, the first time I wanted to buy, was down here at around like $2, $1, $2, $3. Didn't manage to because I didn't have a credit card, and the credit card was the only thing I could figure out how to buy Bitcoin. Saw this rally to 1,000, was like, this is fucking stupid. If I just bought like, because I wanted to buy like $100 worth or something at $2, $1 or $2, something in between there. It went to 1,000, right? So like I think it was quite a little bit above $1. So I was a little bit pissed off because that would have been 1,000x. I was a child back then, so that would have been significant money for me. And I was pissed off, and I was like, I hope this fucking dies because this is just fucking stupid. And then it did, and I was like, well, I was really fucking angry that I didn't have any when it was trading, like when it did all of this. So let me buy some, and I bought somewhere in here. I don't quite remember the exact entry price, but somewhere at the lows were my first buys, because I was just like, well, I mean, I haven't heard about it in a while, so I just wanna get some, do the same thing that I would have done back then, and then bought a bunch of Doge with it a little bit later. And Dogecoin went up a shitload against Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went up a shitload against anything. So basically, I mean, I made money from the start, but by just having a really good entry. And then I started trading more and more during this run up. And then in like 2016, turning 2017, I was like, okay, well, this is something that can make money with long term. And then from there on out, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna pause my studies, see how much money I can make during 2017. And then 2017 was the greatest run, in my opinion anyway, during in crypto history, right? Like, it was the easiest way to make money. We've never seen it easier. Everything went up. You couldn't really do anything wrong. And there was just like brain dead plays left and right. So made a bunch of money there, and then caught like a pretty good exit. I sold pretty much the Bitcoin top, but on the altcoins that I sold doubled and tripled afterwards. So I was quite upset, but then everything went down 90%. So for me, it went pretty straightforward, but I obviously know that I got massively lucky. Like, if my entry wasn't here, but was instead here, my story could have been a completely different one. Basically, Don is profitable since forever. I mean, I just got really lucky with my entry, and then I didn't get too stupid during the bull runs, because my personality is more bearish on a lot of these things, especially like for me during this kind of blow off top in 2017. I was like, no one can fucking use this shit, right? Because crypto was useless back then. Like, you used any of the blockchains around back then, and there was a good chance your funds just got stuck for 2 days, or you tried to kind of move it and you had to pay a shitload of fees to do so. I mean, we had the same thing during this bull run again, where you had where the NFTs went crazy on ETH, and then you had to pay like $100 in ETH just to buy an NFT. We had the same thing in 2017, and I was like, this, if you cannot use it, it's useless, and that's basically why I sold. Hey Dawn, 35 minutes behind. I wanted to ask, if we go to 19K, will that be the moment to go heavy into altcoins? It's a good question. I actually think if we go to 19K, without blowing off, we might actually still have more left where altcoins don't go too crazy. And Bitcoin actually, like, if we do this and start walking up, I think altcoins could still suffer. And the moment we get like a big candle to the upside is where I think, like, let's say my bearishness here, like, I'm not really even bearish. I'm like cautious at best. But let's say we break out here and have like a massive rally towards 32K. That is pretty much vertical. I think a pullback from there, that's the one you want to be buying altcoins, because I think then you're going to get the complacency bounce. If we go back to 19K, I think Bitcoin probably going to curl back up and walk back up. And that's not necessarily the best environment for altcoins. So I'm still going to buy a bunch of altcoins. But yeah, I think if we go to 19K, it might still be Bitcoin's time. There's going to be a few altcoins that outperform, obviously, always. Didn't know the duck was such a chill guy. I don't know. I mean, I felt like I've been chill even on Twitter. Have I not? I don't know. I'll take it as a compliment anyway. Thank you. Hey Don, how you trade across many different exchanges? Do you use any tools or just leave limit orders on them? The thing is, I don't trade too, like I want to get into a position, and I get into a position over a day or two or three, and then I'm in that position for at least 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Most of the time, like just a week or two. Or I mean, in this case, I've been in this position for 3 months now. So like I don't necessarily have to use any tools, because I mean I can just spend a day manually doing everything. But there are great tools out there. But I'm not necessarily, like, I like to just do it myself. I don't know why. It just feels satisfying when you know that you're getting a good price on something. Like when I was buying 16K, I was just like happy with everything. It sounds odd, but it just makes me happy. It makes me more happy to do it myself than it makes me. I could get a better execution probably if I made it like with tools and just properly did it like a professional trader. But I don't really care too much. Like if I lose like $10, $20 of value, like if I get 16K instead of 15,980, but I can do it myself. I mean, with a smile on my face, always gonna make me more happy. So I'd rather do that. But I think there's better ways to do it. It's just me being a little bit stupid. How's Mrs. Duck and Little Duck doing? Very good, very good. Little Duck is very active, kicking left and right and center. She's gonna be a pro. Hey Don, did you ever benefit by asymmetry in information in crypto space? I actually would say I've mostly lost money whenever I had asymmetry, which sounds stupid, right? But for example, like in the NFT space, I bought some NFTs and then I got insider information that there would be an announcement, and the announcement came, and I would have sold into that pump if I didn't get the info. But I was like, oh, what the fuck do I do now? I don't want to sell because I had like prior info, and then I just held it, and then I held it all the way back to my entry, and then held it a little bit longer. And I was like, well, now it feels like okay to sell. So I usually, like, for me, it usually goes that way. If I get kind of insider information on stuff, I usually stay away. It's a stupid way, but it just feels wrong. So I mean, but then again, like, I'm not really into any chat groups anymore. I just do my own thing. So no, and every time someone gives me any information that they shouldn't have, I usually just either tweet about it and don't take advantage of myself, or just don't do anything with it, or shit talk the person if it's something unethical. So I don't really get any information anymore. Like, people don't give me spots in pre-sales or like anything of that nature, because most of the time I would actually speak out if something she's going on, and I don't get like any insider information really. Like, it's been a long time, and like I said, every time I get something, I just don't touch it. So it's just, I don't know. I just rather like make a little bit of bread here and there when I see the market just being crazy, rather than making a lot of money by abusing the status I have. But I get why people do it. It's much easier and you get more money this way. Like you can make stupid amounts of money with this, but I'd rather not. It feels dirty, and there's no need to. Like there's enough money in this market without having to go dirty. At least in my opinion. Can you make more if you play not by the rules, but just by like being an asshole? Of course, but I don't know. I don't want to be an asshole in my life. It just doesn't feel right. Don, considering your mother-in-law was worried about your investments, did you show her your P&L? I would never. Fuck no. I'd rather have people think that everything is going poorly than the opposite. So yeah, that's that. I think we've gone on for long enough, and it's quite late. And I want to actually eat my cake because I didn't get to. And now I feel like even more of a degen because it's 10 in the night here in Germany, and I'm gonna eat a cake before going to bed. But my girlfriend made it for me, so is what it is. Have to eat it, and I mean I will enjoy eating it. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Hope it wasn't too boring. I mean I speed rounded first 10 minutes explaining why I think we could pull back. So anyone that still stuck around and was bored for the rest of it, I mean, it's kind of your own fault. Could have left. Everyone that stuck around, obviously appreciate it. Do like the like thing if you want. I mean, I don't know. It always feels weird asking for it. I don't ever give likes on YouTube videos, so it's not necessarily something that I would expect anyone else to do. But yeah, appreciate you hanging around. It's been fun. We'll see each other on Friday or hear from each other or whatever. It's always weird to say this. But yeah, have a nice evening, morning, day, whatever it is in your time zone. Much love. Bye bye.